my coach kind of pushing me and saying, hey, you should be on video, you should do this. And I was like, dude, I am not a video guy. I'm a real estate agent. I can't.
So much, change, not just in the real estate market, but how people were getting business with YouTube channels. We had this boom.
Because I thought at the time, the more content you put out there, the faster it's going to grow.
Hey friends, what's up? Hope you're having an amazing day. We're back with another episode of the REVB Podcast. Katie Day hosting with my co-host, Timothy Macy. And you guys are in for a treat today. We are talking with Jeb Smith. Don't know if you know him, but if you do know him, it's probably because of YouTube, because he has over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. What's up, man?
Jeb, that's the first time I've heard her drop the oathy on the podcast.
I was about to say something as well. Timothy, huh? Okay. This is very official.
Yeah, you know, we like to keep things pretty official around here.
That's true. Very good point.
Fair enough. I think I should start by apologizing because I was supposed to do this like a month ago and completely missed the call to action on my calendar. And so here we are.
Did you no call, no show us?
Yes.
He did. What's wild is he chose the date and then didn't show up for the date that he chose. Like, I gave him options. He picked the time and then...
Happens to the best of us, Jeb.
I thought a public apology was probably the best way to go about it. Yeah,
well, I am actually really glad that you did that, because my original plan was to get on the thing and do an intro and just like, haha, F you, and close it out and never.
That would be
again.
fantastic.
So thank you for the apology. Looks like we've got to do the podcast now. And that's fine. That's fine.
I love it, Jeb.
Yes, sir.
We haven't known each other very long. You spoke on a panel at REVB. I've seen the channel. Like I've admired from afar. But give me the scoop, man. Like, how did you get into doing this video stuff?
So prior to the pandemic, a lot like everybody was kind of dabbling in video. In fact, I had a Tom Ferry coach back in like 2012. And at the time, he was Tim and Tom. Tom was trying to push video at the time. And so I had, my coach kind of pushing me and saying, hey, you should be on video, you should do this. And I was like, dude, I am not a video guy. I'm a real estate agent. I can't, this sucks. And so I would try to do it and just, it never felt right. And so for the longest time, what I did is I just did video updates, kind of to my database. YouTube is a holding place for videos, and I would send them out to my database and so on and so forth. And that kind of was what happened for the better part of 7 or 8 years. I would do them maybe monthly, maybe every other month. And, it would occasionally get a little bit of traction, but it was never anything. The pandemic happened. Right before the pandemic, I said, you know what, I'm going to start posting videos daily, because I thought at the time, the more content you put out there, the faster it's going to grow. Right. And so I was doing videos 5 days a week on evergreen topics, things that I thought YouTube wanted to see, searchable content that I thought, would just over time do well. And those videos, gained me, a couple hundred subscribers, nothing crazy. A lot of them were probably friends and family and my database, people subscribing because they felt bad for my channel. And then the pandemic hit. And at the beginning of that year, I think I had like 300 subs or something on that channel. And March came. I'm a one-trick pony. I sell real estate. I don't have any other avenues of income, or at that time I didn't. And so when that happened and real estate shut down, I was like, crap, what do I do? Like, I don't know anything else. And so I said, well, I've been on video. I'll just start doing videos every day. I'll just talk about what's happening in the market right now. And a lot of it had to do with mortgage forbearance and, that sort of thing. And real estate prices crashing and all of these things. And I read a lot. I've been in the business over 20 years at this point. And so I kind of went back to the fundamentals of real estate and started talking about the things that I know, the things I was confident in, supply and demand, just the basics. And what I realized really early on is there's a big fear out there, especially in that situation. And so when I started addressing people's fears, people kind of gravitated towards that. And so I was able to say, okay, talk about fears, talk about them in a way that people understand, kind of break down a topic and help people educate them. And it just kind of started growing. And then I think I was at 1,000 subscribers by April of that year. I don't remember what happened from that point forward, but I've been doing the journey now for about 5 years. And here we are. It's been a kind of a crazy ride, because this was never the expectation.
Yeah, I love that. And, it's funny when you go back to that pandemic era, because so much, changed, not just in the real estate market, but how people were getting business with YouTube channels. We had this boom because everybody was sitting at home watching YouTube and watching what was it, Tiger King, right? Like all this wacky stuff. I think, man, that the pandemic, what a time to be alive. But things changed. And I think the things that you learned from there, like addressing people's fears in the type of content you're making, I'm sure is helping you through YouTube now as things have changed and people's fears are different and less people are watching YouTube. So what are you doing to pivot now? Because you also have a national audience, which is different from a lot of the people that we have on here. And you've got 121,000 subscribers, which is crazy. So like, what are you doing in the pivot to still reach people?
You know, my content, like anybody else doing content for this period of time, like I've never missed a week, right? So I went from prior to the pandemic doing like 5 videos a week. And then during during kind of the growth phase, I was doing 3 a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And now I'm really doing 1 a week on this channel. And I do a live. So I do a Sunday drop now on my main video. And then I do a live that week. And so over time, the content's changed a little bit. I have a mortgage background as well. So prior to like my first 10 years in real estate, I also own the mortgage company. So and I still keep up with mortgage guidelines. I still follow that stuff, even though I don't do loans. And so I talk a lot about the mortgage piece. And so for me, it's kind of like there's the hub for me is YouTube. And then it's got a lot of spokes that come off of it. And my content kind of varies depending on where I'm at, because I get bored with this stuff like anybody else. I mean, you repeat yourself constantly, consistently. And I think that's the thing that nobody sees is that you're just having the same conversation over and over again. And for me, I'm one of those people, it drives me nuts to continue to talk about the same thing over and over. So I changed the content up a little bit. It's primarily always been geared towards first-time home buyers. And, over the last 6 months or so, I've kind of geared the content more towards the mortgage side and a little bit away from the real estate side, because I found that my avatar, or what I thought was my avatar, that's the content that they were looking for. So it's been shifting around a little bit. So it's hard to say where I am right now with the content, because I'm trying to get that groove back, because honestly, my views are suffering right now. There are things on my channel that I'm not happy with. So I'm in that process of transitioning and trying to figure it out myself. But it's all obviously geared towards real estate, geared towards the mortgage side, and trying to figure out those pieces.
So when you say that, like, that's not what your audience was looking for, that was what your audience was looking for,
Yeah.
like, how do you determine that? Because I think everyone has some different metrics that they look at. Sometimes
Sure.
It's just comments, like, but we always tell people to like make the content for their avatar, for their person, and like they don't always know how to figure that out. So how do you make adjustments along the way?
Yes. So I think it's important to understand like how I got to where I am now, right? I didn't start with an avatar in mind. I started backwards. And would I have done a national audience looking back in hindsight? Maybe not, right? I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. And so I just thought I wanted to talk about real estate. Well, real estate obviously is a national thing. And so people gravitated towards it because that was the craziness at the time. And so I had all of these different people. And so what happened was I would talk about things like the housing market, mortgage rates, things that could talk to anybody nationally. And that would kind of be my Monday drop on a video. And then I had a while where I did a Monday drop on a video and I did a Friday. Well, my Monday drop was kind of more of a fear-based, clicky, the title, the thumbnail was a little bit more aggressive. Never clickbait, but it was that style. Those videos would always perform really well. And so high view counts, a lot of comments, get a lot of subscribers off of it. My Friday videos were more educational. The Friday videos were teaching people how to do things. Maybe it was a loan program. Maybe it was walking them through buying a house. Maybe it was this other thing. And on that piece, I wouldn't get the views, wouldn't necessarily get the comments, but what would happen is people would take action and go to a lead page. And then those people we would conversate, right? We would have a conversation. Maybe it was a referral to an agent in another state. Maybe it was a mortgage lead that, we were able to feed to the mortgage company and get business from that. The problem with all of this stuff is that for me, I can speak for me, I can't speak for we're attracted to the vain metrics to some degree, right? We want the views, we want the comments, but we also want the activity. And with some of the stuff, it was hard to get it all. And so what I kind of geared away from it once I got to 100,000 subscribers, because that was the goal, right? In a weird way, that's what I wanted, even though it didn't really mean anything, but it meant something to me because it was kind of like, hey, you've been working towards this.
What a humble brag.
Just hit it, right? That's what I wanted. And once I got there, I was like, okay, I don't care anymore about subscribers. I want interactions. I want people to take the next step, work with my team. I want to be able to make money out of this transaction, if you will, while educating. And so I kind of geared my content towards that. And that's where it's been for the last couple of months. And the view count's down. The interactions are not what they were. Part of it's probably market related. Part of it's seasonality, right? YouTube goes through seasons too. But it's difficult for me to remind myself of that sometimes, kind of when you're going through this whole thing. It's like you want it all and you want it all the time. And it doesn't always, fire on the same cylinders.
Yeah, it's funny. You said I started backwards, and the only thing I heard in that statement was I started.
Sure.
Right? It's like 121,000 subscribers, all this stuff, and you're looking at all the stuff you messed up when you started. But the fact is, you started, and that's where I think so many people have that hiccup. And then that other piece, part of the problem, it's like agents who got their license in 2020. It's like you started YouTube in the pandemic, or you were a little bit before the pandemic, but it was a lot of our agents did YouTube in the peak YouTube season. That was the best that we may never see again. Like it may never be that good again. And then it slows down. And whenever anything slows down, our shiny object brains always go to, this doesn't work anymore.
Well,
right?
That's 100%.
But like almost everyone that started YouTube, like that's had this like pandemic thing, is like the interest rates obviously have like a significant correlation with that. But like where I think I've seen people win, and like Jeb, like I know you're still sending out referrals and is like they're still making content and they're tweaking it. So like I'm seeing a lot of people starting to create like seller channels or like super higher buyer heavy channels, right? So I think that there's like those tweaks, right, that not everyone makes that are super key right now.
Well, I think let's if we can talk about that for a sec. So you asked me where my content's going, right? So I've been somewhat bored with the main channel and the avatar and talking about the things repetitively and that sort of thing. So I decided to go create another channel, how to sell a home, right? And so I've been going through the growing pains with the people that are starting YouTube over the last 4 to 5 months, and it sucks. Like I was talking to Juan and Dan about it at REVB, that like I'm going through what everybody in this room is going through right now, and I know the feeling because I'm kind of back at square one, and I know what that grind feels like. And I think leaving REVB, I was at like maybe 550 subscribers on that channel. I had a video like consistently doing what we say to do, post, you do your videos, you stick with the plan. I had a video last Wednesday. I post Wednesdays on that channel that took off. It's like, it was, the channel's 500 subscribers. It has 50 something thousand views on it. I gained, it made my channel monetize. So I was able to get 4,000 hours and over 1,000. I think it's at 1,400 subscribers today from primarily that one video. But that one video is now going to help all the other videos on that channel because it's going to show in their homepage feed. It's, the videos that are linked to that are now going to show up. So it's that sort of thing. Like you just don't know what that one video is. And that was a win for me. It's not a huge video by any means on, looking at my other stuff, but for me, that was confidence that, okay, you're doing the right thing.
Well, I love that. And, I think sometimes we do look at people who started YouTube channels when it was easier. And we say, oh, well, like that ship sailed.
Sure.
Right?
No,
but
absolutely.
You just started a new channel that's getting traction. And so like, it doesn't matter when, it doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter how many creators are on YouTube. Like these algorithms are designed to find great new content. And if you're making the great new content, the algorithm could find you and put you in front of that many new people and double your subscribers and have things start to get traction. So like advice wise, how do you think about making content that will reach the audience that you're trying to reach?
I think a lot of people out there are still in the SEO world of naming podcast, of thinking that they need certain things in videos in order to make videos perform well. And anybody that's got a YouTube channel gets emails every day. I probably get between 4 to 5 text messages and DMs and emails. I mean, all of that, probably 10 or more, of people that can help me with my YouTube channel. And they want to optimize it SEO wise. And SEO does play a part in there to some degree, but it's not what helps channels grow for the most part. Everything's AI. AI knows what you're saying. They can read the thumbnail. They know what the content's about. They know what it's linked to. They're very good at finding people that want to watch certain content. So when I think about content now, I think, okay, you've got to keep people engaged for the first 15 to 20 seconds, like any sort of creator thinks, because that's when the biggest drop off is. And if you can keep people engaged, or at least get them to watch past that, that sends a signal to YouTube that says, okay, we've got people hanging on now. Maybe this is a video people want to watch, and then let YouTube do its thing. But for me, I like to talk about things that are happening in real estate that I feel like people can benefit from to some degree. Like, that's kind of always been my thing. Is I'm not a big YouTube watcher. And that's a surprise for a lot of people, because my kids watch YouTube, and I watch YouTube with my kids, but their channels are entirely different from the type of content that I'm filming. And so I've kind of always just, I have some mentors, some people that I follow out there in the world of real estate, and, the Christina Smallhorns and that sort of thing. Like, we're friends and we communicate. So we're always having conversations about different things. But for me, I like to talk about what I want to talk about. I'm not necessarily trying to always feed the audience what they want to hear. Sometimes it's, hey, this is what you need to hear, because this is what's happening in the market, and this is going to help you win. Or maybe it's a signal that says, maybe this isn't the right time for you because of what's going on, right? And so I just try to think of content how I think my audience needs to hear it, more so than necessarily delivering this templated message. I don't script a lot of stuff. I just kind of talk.
Well, the thing that I'm hearing too is you're talking about stuff that you're knowledgeable on. You're talking about stuff that you're passionate about. And then you're thinking about, okay, what's the best way that I can explain this that the audience understands it? And I do think that agents look at the topics in the videos that are working for other agents. And so then they go try to recreate those without really being an expert on the topic. And then you make a video and you're like, wait a second, I did the school district video that, Jeb did, and it didn't work. And then I did the traffic video that so-and-so did, and it didn't work. And like, a lot of times the success of the video you're making is going to come not from the topic you're doing, but also from how well you talk about it. And so like, what's your, advice to people to make sure that they're finding something that they're passionate about and a topic they can speak well about, because that tends to be a huge factor in whether or not the content they make is successful.
Yeah. I think I like to talk about, like you said, things that I know, things that I'm confident in. That way, is that if anybody questions it, it's like, I think a fear for a lot of people, kind of backing up, is like, I'm going to say something that's going to be wrong, and then everybody on the internet's going to chastise me. They're going to tell me that I'm wrong, and it's just going to make me feel like there's going to be this emotion. And I don't talk about things that I'm not confident in. So if you're telling me that I'm wrong, then it's a matter of opinion at that point, because we're talking about what's happening in the market, or some of these things. Some of these things are factual. They're not wrong, but some of it's theory to some degree, and so that can go either way. And so I like to talk about things that I'm confident in that way. But think about the conversations you're having with clients, like the things that are bothering them, the things that, that's where all of my content comes from. It is, what are the questions your friends, your family, the people at the soccer field, the football are asking you about real estate, and how can you turn that into something that can benefit that avatar, that audience, whoever it is you're trying to speak to. With the new channel, Selling a Home, a lot of my content is coming from the listing table, like the conversations we're having. And it's how can I reform that into a video? And some of that is watching other people's content and getting an idea. Okay, they did a similar video. Did they talk about anything in here that I'm talking about? Yeah, they did. Okay. Oh, that's something I didn't mention. Let's add that in. And so, I used to go back into when I originally filmed videos, I filmed from the beginning to the end. There was no cuts. And if I messed up at 6 minutes, I started over. And so I realized that was an awful way to film content later on down the road. And so then I started saying, a part. And if I messed up, then I would just restart it and so on and so forth. And I tell people all the time, like the editor is like the magician that kind of puts the whole thing together. And you can speak a lot and it can come out to be a great video at the end of the day. And so what I try to do is tie a bunch of things together that I feel like, needs to be in a video in a way that an editor can kind of work with it and make some magic out of it. I think most people get in their heads and I'm a shoot first, ask questions later, which can be good and bad. And
I love that.
So for your edits or for your shots, so you said before you would shoot it, you screw up at 6 minutes, you start over and you're like, all right,
Sure.
so today is what we're talking about. And you go through the whole thing, right?
Sure.
So now do you just like pause, give it a minute so that there's a clear break in the audio and then just start back with the same thought and like kind of continue on? Or what does that look like? Because
yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like now that it's changed a little bit. So what I found is that AI, so one thing I've created is my own GPT. Well, I've got several, but one GPT that's primarily for YouTube. And what it has is a lot of my transcripts, probably 500 plus of my transcripts from my videos. And so it knows how I talk. It knows how I communicate. It knows the information that I've covered, the detail, all of that stuff in that GPT. So now what I do is I'll go to a Google Doc and I'll start typing about a video that I want to cover. I'll kind of highlight the talking points of like, these are the things I want to cover. And maybe I'll say a little bit something about it. I take that, I'll put it into GPT with a prompt and say, hey, basically, can you create, some sort of outline based on this? This is the title of the video. This is what I'm trying to hit home about. Can you look through my other video scripts, see if there's something in there that you feel like should be added? And so now it creates a rough outline of things that I want to cover. Because what I found is if I just go into GPT and I just say, hey, I want to cover this, create an outline, it's blah. If I put my thoughts on paper and then put those into this, it creates a much better outline. So now I'm a little bit more structured in it. I say, you guys have probably seen that, what was it, like kind of like a manual that Mr. Beast put out to his employees about, how he did the process, right? So what I did is I took that, I put that into Chat GPT because in there, it kind of went through his video structure. And I said, hey, I want you to basically when you create videos for me, I want you to use the same structure that Mr. Beast is using, which is basically some hook, some sort of tension, a payoff, maybe a re-engagement. And so now when I create an outline, I use that Mr. Beast GPT structure to create that video. So now it comes up with a hook, comes up with some sort of tension, comes up with a payoff early on, and comes up with some sort of re-engagement. So now when I start a video, I'm trying to hit those things that are similar to, again, my videos are entirely different, but the same type of mindset of hitting that stuff. And then I go into my content and then I start, because I think, hey, if I can get them somewhat engaged in the first 15 to 20 seconds, like, hey, this is something I watch, then they're more inclined to kind of stay for the long haul.
No, that's awesome. Tell me about your relationship with your editor. Like, give us the quick rundown on production, because I think we talked about a lot of great concepts and mindset stuff, which I think is important, but give us like the nuts and bolts of your production process.
So I film, right? So I don't use a teleprompter. I film directly into a camera. I stare into the lens, the black hole, if you will, of the lens, and I record a video. And so once I have that video, I take it, put it in a folder, Google Drive, and then me and my editor, she's in the Philippines, communicate via WhatsApp. Pretty much 100% of the time. And with that being said, going back, how did I find her? I used onlinejobs.ph in early on in the pandemic. In fact, I was looking for somebody who was data entry. I just wanted somebody to take the videos I was doing, put them on my WordPress website at the time, create a blog post out of it, and basically kind of for SEO, right, is what I was doing. And so what I realized is that she was decent with computers. So one day I asked her, I said, hey, do you know how to edit videos? And she goes, not really, kind of. And I said, well, hey, here's a video. Can you edit it? And she sent it back and it looked better than what I did, because all I was doing was chopping the front, chopping the end, maybe putting a piece of B-roll in there occasionally if I was talking about something, and that was the video. That there was nothing to it. And so she did one and it was equal better than what I did. And I said, you know what? Instead of doing data entry stuff, like, can you just edit this video? And I was paying her $3 an hour at the time. So I was paying her about $300 a month for 8 to 10 videos. And what happened was, over time, she got better. Her editing improved. And I said, you know what? I feel bad that I'm paying you $300 an hour. I said, I'd like to pay you $400. And then it went from $400. Now I pay her $500. And, you know, I give her bonuses and that sort of thing here and there, just because I feel like I need to. But, is it the best editor out there? In fact, there are better editors. I send videos to editors occasionally because people reach out to me and I say, okay, here's a video I did. Just edit it. Let me, I'll pay you if I use it or whatever, but I just want to see what you do. And there are better editors. I mean, way better, in fact, but I'm kind of loyal. I'm loyal to her. She helped me get to 100,000 subscribers. Could it really improve maybe, but you don't know what you don't know. So I'm okay with where we're at with.
Well, and
I think one of the points too is, it doesn't matter as much as we think it does.
It does
not.
Like,
the thing that matters is what you're saying and how you're saying it and how smart you sound. And you could have no edit like you're talking about and still crush it. But everybody gets so hung up on the edit instead of the things they say. Sorry, Katie, go.
That was kind of what I was going to say as well. I mean, I just think that, like, there's two things that I love about what you said. And one is that, right, that, like, it doesn't have to be a flashy edit, right? And we've seen it on short form. People went from this, like, cut every second, graphics on the screen, things flashing, the words flying. And, like, we're seeing a little bit of that, like, listing tours now. But, like, for a talking head style video, people are like, I want the knowledge and I want to just hear what you're saying, not fucking graphics flying. And then I also love the fact that, like, you had this person that's worked with you and, like, they've grown with you and learned and done the things. I think that oftentimes people will hire a VA or even someone here locally in the States, and they're like, oh, this is the only thing that I hired you for. Let me go find someone else to do this thing. And you approach this person that you already have the relationship with, and you guys have been able to grow together. Like, I see that a lot with people that do that with videographers or editors or whatever. And, like, yeah, so I really like that. It's interesting hearing where everyone's finding them from. So, like, online jobs is common.
And Jeb, I do think too, where, like, you can tell me what you think, but I would much rather have somebody who may not seem as good, but I know is reliable.
Sure, 100%.
Flashy editor, because I can tell you, like, there's some of these people that message you, and we've even had people that will go on and, like, grab footage of me and, like, put together a whole video. Yep. And be like, I made you this video. Would you like to pay me to make another one? And I'm like, man, I respect the hustle, but that type of hustle will probably also hustle away from me onto the next person. So to just have somebody that's been with you for that long is awesome.
No, that part is really cool. Like, she's never let me down. She knows my days that my videos drop. I try to also get a couple videos ahead, just in case something comes up, because she has gotten sick. I mean, the Philippines, the internet drops. I mean, like, weird things happen, and, like, you can't control them. And so, consistency is important on YouTube. Dropping on the same date, that sort of thing is very important. But at the same time, going back to the edit piece, one thing I've noticed as a creator, even though I don't watch a lot of YouTube, the stuff that I do watch, almost, like, you can go no edit today. Like, you can go pretty much straight talking head, because what a lot of people are watching it on their TV now. And so with all of this stuff coming in, like, 65-inch TV, and you got all this stuff, like, it's overwhelming. Like, people are like, I don't want to watch this crap, versus somebody that's just sitting there talking. So I think, like, the non-edit edit is almost as good as, the high quality stuff. And so that wouldn't be my sticking point if I were somebody, filming the video. That's the easy part.
Yeah. To your point, I just have seen some of our people that just have this tone. They have a cadence about them. Like Malcolm Lawson just has this very smooth way of talking that when you're listening to him, they just kind of wrap you in and you're just listening to the whole thing, whether or not it has great edits or what. And I think, again, going back to what our agents overthink the editing. Our agents overthink the top. And it's like, so much of it is just, how do you keep somebody hooked in with the words that you're using and with the way you're talking? Because that's what keeps them in. Don't get me wrong, the B-roll, couple clips here, the edit helps, but ultimately it's your ability to speak about something, which you crush it with, that you know about, that you're knowledgeable about, where people are just kind of eating out of the palm of your hand as a viewer, wanting everything that you have to say. And it goes back to the thing that you brought up before, which is like, that's why it's so important to make sure if you're going down this YouTube route and you're going to be sitting talking for 10 minutes, it better be something that you know about. It better be something that you're passionate about. It better be something that you can hold the audience's attention for 10, 12 minutes on. And so I think, like we talked about, I think the Mr. Beast stuff still works, like the way he focuses on people's attention and all that other fun stuff. It doesn't take away from that, but I think what it does say is that, okay, if I'm not, what's he do? Like a different clip every 2 seconds or something. Like the pace of those is crazy. On the same hand, the way you talk, you better be talking about something meaningful every couple seconds, right? And not just having a bunch of flub in the middle of your thoughts, right? And making sure that you keep people's attention. So I think that's an underrated piece that you can do straight talking head, no editing, no effects, just crushing it with the topic.
And I think people like listening to this, if you're new into the content space, or maybe you've been in for a while, like you're going, like repeating yourself is part of the deal, right? So like 70% or so of the people watching your content have never seen you before, every time, right? So 70 or so percent of the people watching your videos have never heard of Jeb, they've never heard of Tim, they've never heard of Katie. Like that is the first time they're hearing you. So the fact that you're repeating yourself in your head, you're like, they're going to know. They're going to call me out. They know that I've said this. No, they don't. And even if they do, it's like going to that seminar where you've heard the same speaker multiple times and something hits you one time that didn't hit you before. And they've said it and they've said it, but you're like, you know what? This time I get it. And so to me, that's how I think about content. I have no problem repeating myself at this point. In fact, if you watched 100 videos, I guarantee you there's 50 of them there's 5 minutes in there that's probably the same 5 minutes to some degree.
And I'm going to make this point too. The stuff that I've talked about before, I'm better at talking about.
Sure.
Like sometimes I'll say something, people be like, man, that was great. I'm like, that's the first time you heard that? I say that all the time. But the stuff I say all the time, I get better at. And so do not be afraid to repeat yourself, because one, most people haven't seen you before. And two, people who even have seen you before sometimes need to hear you say it 2 or 3 times before it resonates. So, man, that was, awesome stuff. Katie,
I would agree.
You got anything else before we wrap this thing up?
I would agree, Tim. You just did a talk the other day for some of our groups, and it was something that I've heard you say multiple times, but you've gotten better at it, and I feel like it resonated with people, and it was great. So, Jeb, thank you so much for joining today. I appreciate you. I'm glad we got to spend this time with you. Because I thought we never would. I thought you just didn't like us. And
I thought I wouldn't show again.
So I appreciate you, brother. What if someone's trying to get in contact with you other than scheduling directly on your calendar? What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
I think, just you can email me, jeb@jebsmith.net. You can go to Instagram. I'm there. In fact, I want to talk to you about Instagram. We can do it on here. We can do it off the air. But good stuff. That's how you can get
Jeb,
it. Yes.
Do you spend any time on Facebook?
Yes, but not a huge amount.
If we asked you to answer some questions from the people in our Facebook group, would you?
Sure, absolutely, 100%.
All right. Yeah. So listen, if you're listening to this episode, when we drop this episode, we're gonna put a little thread in the Facebook group. So get in there and bring Jeb some questions. The dude's got 120.
I'm an open book with this stuff, guys. I talk to people all the time. I'm happy to help you. None of this is a secret. I'm happy to share anything.
I'll go ahead and schedule a post in the Facebook group so that Tim, we remember to actually, have it. So
that's the thing. I say it, and then I see Katie, thinking about
he's like, when this pod drops, if you're listening to this right now, then you should.
And Jeb, because I totally identified with the no call, no show, because that I may have done that a time or two.
Yeah,
someone,
that's
It's all
that's
good.
my first, and I felt awful. I was like,
We-
oh my God.
I think
Like,
he
I
actually texted
cannot
me.
believe.
He's like, "Am I an asshole?" And I just responded, "Yes, you are."
Fair. That's fair.
we listen and we don't judge.
No, we love you,
exactly.
brother. I appreciate
I
you
appreciate
hopping
it.
in.
Absolutely, guys.
Thanks, Jeb.
Absolutely. Adios.